We begin with the shocking news of a confession by a British soldier who has admitted to killing a Kenyan woman in Nanyuki town and dumping her body in a septic tank. The killing took place 9 years ago in Nanyuki town, which has for decades been home to a British Army unit.
The British Royal Military Police has launched a murder inquiry into the case in which a British soldier is accused of murdering a 21-year-old woman, Agnes Wanjiru, in the Nanyuki base. And as Stephen Leto reports, the British High Commission says it will cooperate with the Kenyan authorities to unearth the murder.
For 9 years now, the family of Agnes Wanjiru in Laikipia County has been on a long search for justice until one military officer confessed to Sunday Times, a daily issue in England, that the accused told him that he killed her.
I were in the pub and he come in crying, saying, "Help me, help me." I said, "Why? What do you mean? I've killed her." "What do you mean you've killed her? Show me."
In his narration, he says after the confession, he was led to a septic tank where Wanjiru's body that was now floating.
What did you see?
I just remember her. She was in the tank when I seen her. He took me to the tank and lifted it up, and I looked in, and I just remember seeing her in there, and my heart sank, and I just said, "I'll never forgive you for this, never." Then the RMP have turned up and arrested us all because we weren't supposed to be there.
The murder occurred in one of the hotels located about 10 minutes drive from the British training camp. In quick succession of events that night in Nanyuki, the matter was muted with top military bosses in Nanyuki British camp seemingly sweeping the matter under. Following the shocking confession, the British High Commissioner Jane Marriott stated, and I quote, "I share the concern about the tragic death of Agnes Wanjiru in 2012. My thoughts are with her family and the community. I can assure Kenyans that the UK is fully cooperating with the investigation and will help in any way we can," she said in her statement. Kenyan authorities are yet to comment on the shocking revelations, whose inquest was closed in 2019. The British High Commission now says it will support the Kenyan police investigations. Senior military chiefs from Britain are also scheduled to visit Kenya next month. The British High Commission says the military chiefs will visit the British Army Nanyuki training base for, among other things, a report on the progress of the Wanjiru's murder case. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
Search for justice in the murder of Agnes Wanjiru, a 21-year-old woman from Laikipia County, has finally made a breakthrough over a decade since she was murdered. Several soldiers from the United Kingdom who were training under the British Army Training Unit Kenya, that's Batuk, and who were present on the night of the murder have been interviewed. At last, 2 of the soldiers have strong cases against them, according to the lead investigator from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. Gina Kirori has more.
The final moments of Agnes Wanjiru's life go down in Kenya's history as one of the most horrific. The details of her murder, as quoted in a 2018 inquest into her death, narrated the callous nature in which she was stabbed, dragged, and thrown into a septic tank while she was still alive, where she was left to die. However, since Agnes's murder on 31st March 2012, justice for Agnes appeared forlorn as no progress on the investigations were being made.
Huyo mtu ashikwa, isikuja mtu mwingine afanyiwe hivyo, itupiliwe hivyo mbali.
That is until recently, when officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations (DCI) were in the United Kingdom to interview soldiers who are training under the British Army Training Unit Kenya Batuk in Kenya under the Duke of Lancaster Regiment. DCI says they have found compelling cases against at least 2 of the soldiers who they have questioned. While the argument had previously been that Kenya and the UK's different legal systems presented an obstacle in prosecuting the soldiers and that the British troops enjoyed immunity, a landmark ruling by Justice Kosi Bor in 2022 found that the relevant authorities of the host nation, Kenya, shall have jurisdiction over any member of the visiting forces, the civilian component or dependents for any criminal offense committed in contravention of any law of the host nation, customary international law, treaty or any agreement to which the host nation's government is a party, save for instances where under this agreement such jurisdiction is expressly conferred on the service authorities of the sending nation. DCI will now send a report to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, who will decide if the evidence gathered meets the threshold for a warrant of arrest to be issued for the soldiers. This could also mean the possible extradition of the suspect into Kenya for trial. Ngena Kirori, NTV. Fond memories abound in Wanjiru's home. She is Agnes's sister. She and her family lived with Agnes and her child at the time of her death. It is easy to identify Agnes, even in old photos of her as a high school student. Her signature smile consistently present. Her family reckons it hid her bubbly and jovial side, which they say they miss the most about her. Agnes, who had a 5-month-old child at the time, was working as a hairdresser until she went missing in March 2012.
Kulikuwa tarehe 31. Mimi nilikuwa kwa neighbor, nikakuja nikakuta msichana wangu yule mkubwa, nikamuuliza kwa Shirua kwa wapi, akaniambia Shirua ameenda na Flora na Susi.
The next day, Agnes had still not shown up at her sister's home, as was the norm. Agnes's friend Florence told Rose that her sister was last spotted at Lions Court Hotel. Rose says she made her way there alongside their uncle, Murevi Kamodho, seeking answers.
Tukaambiwa hakuna mtu kama huyo, labda tuangalie kwa mashamba ya wazungu na huko. Sasa tukauliza huyo wasema kwa mashamba gani na walikuwa na yeye walimwacha huko.
While Agnes's sister did not know it then, this would be the biggest hint yet that a British soldier was involved in Agnes's disappearance. One of Agnes's relatives, who requested us to conceal her identity, adds to the weight of the events surrounding Agnes's disappearance. We will identify her by the name Lucy.
Wakaenda kapata huyo soja akamwambia walikuja 3 guards wakaingia, yeye akaingia kwa room na mzungu. It happened that there was a fight in that room. Yeye akakuwa in that room when kulikuwa na fight kiu ilivunjika. Those 2 months when walikuwa wanaenda kumtafuta walikuwa uncle yangu. It happened that uncle alikuwa anaenda kwa hiyo septic tank analia hapo sana, but hakuwa anajua ati hapo ndipo sister yake atakuwa, hapo ndipo sister yake yako.
The principal magistrate's opinion on the murder inquest, which also details various submissions, indicates that on the 5th of June 2012, the toilets and other facilities at the Lions Court Hotel got blocked. The septic tank near the kitchen was emitting an unusually foul smell. The gardener who worked in the maintenance section, John Geshuki Ndirango, headed to the tank to clean it, but inside he found the body of a female floating in the sewage. He said he was shaken, traumatized, felt like he was losing his mind. He immediately reported the matter to the manager, who then informed the hotel's then general manager, George Njuguna Wangare. Police were called to the scene, and alongside the fire brigade team, they retrieved the body and ferried it to the mortuary. All she had was a bra. The rest of her clothing was not found at the hotel. Rose was called in for identification and possible confirmation of her sister. From her recollection, it was a tragic end to the search for Agnes.
Alikuwa na ndugu baka huko. Na alikuwa hapa kwa mguu alikuwa kama ile mpipa ilikuwa inaonekana. Hizi nyama zilikuwa zinakaa hapa. Na kwa vidole za mguu alikuwa amekata hizi zile hakuna hizi, labda amebaki na hizi mbili kwa zingine hakuna.
The search may have been over, but the pain Agnes's family had only escalated and intensified. According to the post-mortem examination conducted by Dr. Obiero Okoth, who was a pathologist at the Kenyatta National Hospital, one injury was a blow to Agnes's chest, while the other was a stab wound on her lower right abdomen. The doctor also determined that Agnes was still alive when she was thrown into the septic tank, as her injuries were not severe enough to cause death. The pathologist attributed her missing fingers and toes to the level of decomposition which he says is expected in light of the time she had spent in the septic tank.
If someone has been murdered in your hotel, or maybe something has broken, or maybe you have gotten blood spots on the floor, you should call the police first, because you don't know what is happening. But again, the hotel decided to just to cover up the case, and then even this suspect, Soldier X, was helped. Like I can say, he was helped by someone from the hotel, because how can a new person in the hotel know where the septic tank isn't?
The allegation of a cover-up by the management is not necessarily far-fetched. Douglas Obiero, also known as DJ Dagi, was on duty at the Lions Court Hotel on the night of 31st March 2012. He was among those that last saw Agnes alive, but says the police never interviewed him about the disappearance or death. For clarity, as this report proceeds, it is important to note that the British soldiers are nicknamed and referred to as Johnny.
So Zanodi kaingia mapema, kapoa, majoni wakakamu, walikuja lori ya kwanza, watu lori kama mbili walizilikamu, so ikakuwa busy, walami tupu, bama zimejaa. Ile moja akaniambia, where are the ladies? Kabla give me a minute. Nikachulia mabesti wangu, wakakuja taksi kama 6 madem.
But ulimspot kwa crowd?
Yeah, hata tulibonga naye. Huyo besti yake alintroduce kwake.
Uliongea je?
Aliambia Dagi, naona kuna job, get busy. Kuna vile wao wanacheza. So hiyo ni ya na mimi nicheze kivyangu kwa muziki.
Douglas says that the next day, he was going about his errands when he heard rumors that Agnes had gone missing. He went on to inform the general manager, George, who said he had no knowledge of such a case. Then things went quiet until the 5th of June when Agnes's body was found in the septic tank.
I feel that all training grounds, military training grounds in Africa for foreign governments should be abolished immediately. I want to repeat that all foreign military training grounds in African countries, I believe, should be abolished and closed immediately. Do Africans know that as we speak today, almost in every African country there is a foreign military base? Almost in every African country there is a foreign military base. Why must the United States come and establish a military base in Kenya? Why must the British come and establish a military base in Kenya? Why must the US establish a military base in Somalia? Why? Do these African countries lack the proper military personnel to protect themselves? I am saying that these foreign military bases should be closed because they do not live up to their roles. I bumped into an article that was referring to the situation in Kenya, and according to this article, there was a call for the British military bases in Kenya to be closed. If this article, the title read that a challenge to British impunity in Kenya. Now, for those who follow history and for those who are abreast with history, you will understand that Kenya was colonized by the British and it got independence in 1963. Now, after getting independence, I don't know what happened in between, and the British also came back and established a military base in Kenya. This is, to me, this is a form of neo-colonization, because when your colonizer says that you are now independent, and the same colonizer comes back and establishes a military base in the same country which was declared independent, I believe that is neocolonialism, and Africans need to take care of that. Now, when you read this article is saying that there was a parliamentary inquiry. The Kenyan parliament made some inquiries of the conduct of British soldiers who are training in Kenya. And according to what they found, that I just want to read what is in this article, that members of the British Army Training Unit Kenya, Batuk, have been accused of murder, the sexual abuse of local women, and the use of dangerous chemicals close to their base in Nanyuki in northern Kenya, about 125 miles north of Nairobi. Now, this article continues and says that Britain has kept roughly 200 military personnel permanently based in Kenya since the country gained independence from the United Kingdom in 1963, as well as being a camp to train its own soldiers. The unit provides vital anti-terrorism training to around 1,000 Kenyan soldiers fighting Al-Shabaab in neighboring Somalia. Now, if you are very careful, they have also said that the Kenyan police announced the reopening of a case concerning 21-year-old Agnes Wanjiru's death after a Sunday Times investigation in 2021 identified a British soldier accused of her murder. Now, if you have been following what I was simply reading, the British Army Training Unit Kenya, Batuk, have been accused of murder, sexual abuse of local women, and the use of dangerous chemicals close to their base in Nanyuki. And there is also a citation that a British soldier killed a 21-year-old Kenyan, Agnes Wanjiru's death in 2021. And we are in 2023, and this soldier has never been apprehended. This is what I am talking about. These foreign governments, they establish their military bases in African countries. They allow their soldiers to train in our soil. They allow their soldiers to control our resources. They allow their soldiers to infiltrate and control our military. And the same soldiers who are living in our countries, the same soldiers who come to Africa to train, living among us, they are visitors, foreigners in our countries. They come, kill us, abuse our women, and use dangerous chemicals like what the British soldiers are doing. They are murdering people, sexually abusing local women, and using dangerous chemicals. And they have also been accused by the Kenyan authorities of killing, let me say, a mother, let me say so. Now, this is why I am calling for the closure of these military bases, foreign military bases in Africa. These foreign military bases, one, they depict the neocolonialism in African countries. I started this discussion by saying that Africans should be informed that in almost every African country there is a foreign military base. There is a foreign military base in almost every African country. When I talk about Kenya, there is a British military base in Kenya. And I believe there is an American military base in Kenya. The same applies to Somalia. The same applies to Uganda. Those are just East African countries. There are several military bases in West African countries. And these military bases are established with the requirement or the primary objective of, they always say that helping African countries, African governments to fight terrorism. In Kenya, they say that they help train Kenyan soldiers to fight terrorism, Al-Shabaab terrorists. In Somalia, the US soldiers train Somalia soldiers to help them fight Al-Shabaab terrorists. From just the report, the parliamentary report that I have read, it shows that these people, they are not interested in fighting terrorism. They are not interested in training Kenyan soldiers to fight terrorism. They are interested in causing impunity on African countries and Africans. The case of Kenya should be a lesson to all other African countries. The evidence from the Kenyan parliament should be a lesson, a first-hand experience to all other African countries that harbor these foreign military training bases. I want to believe, and I believe that most of the people sharing this platform would support me in saying that these foreign military bases, they are not in Africa for the good reasons. They are in Africa, one, to protect their interests, and they are in Africa to stamp their authority. I had in one of the discussions about the situation in Uganda, when the then president, the current president, and the then president Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was saying that these foreign governments, they establish foreign military training bases to ensure that they are close to you, such that when you misbehave, they can easily attack you. When you misbehave, they can easily get to you, control you. The same thing was happening in Niger. The French, which was the colonizer of Niger, had a permanent military training base in Niger. And when the junta leaders took power from the former president, President Mohamed Bazoum, the junta leaders ordered French soldiers to leave the country. Why do you think they were saying so? They were taking such an action because they believe that these soldiers are not in their country for the good reasons. These soldiers are in their country to cause impunity, promote impunity, and founded on the same reasons, founded on the same arguments, the same pinpoints. I believe that these foreign military bases in African countries should be closed with immediate effect, and these soldiers should be ordered to return to their countries, because what they did in Kenya should be a lesson, should be an example of what happens in other African countries. If in Kenya they sexually abuse local women and they murder Kenyans, and still the Kenyan government covers up these misdeeds, then we as civilians, we as citizens, we can practically order the closure of these military training bases and advise the government to order the return of these foreign soldiers, because I believe African countries have adequate security personnel to take care of them. Kenya in particular has well-trained soldiers to take care of the security of the country and the region. I saw something that Kenya wants to send its soldiers to Haiti. That means that Kenya has well-trained soldiers. It does not need Britain to protect it. It does not need the US to protect it. Kenya does not need the British soldiers or the American soldiers to be stable, to be peaceful. It has soldiers well-trained and well-equipped to maintain peace. And with this, with the evidence on the British Army atrocities in Kenya, I argue and I support the proposal that all foreign military bases in African countries, which I have said that almost in every African country there is a foreign military training base. I believe that these foreign military training bases should be closed with immediate effect if they are in Africa to promote impunity.